to all those that are new to the channel, hit the bell, hit the subscribe button so you can always be in the loop with everything that's going on in this channel. So last week we talked about rhythm, and we started our mini series rhythms, and we talked about cadence and how we all play a part in this great picture, this great band. And today we're gonna talk about mixing. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this production software called Mixcraft, but years ago, I'm dating myself a little bit, but years ago, myself and some family members, my cousin and my brother, we used what was called Mixcraft. And for Mixcraft, it was like a lot of people's, dream like that, and then other softwares where you can just make all these beats and you can be the producer that you always wanted to be. You can rap and all of this. And for me, I was just doing it for fun, and I was like, man, this is gonna be awesome. Like, we can actually do this. But that wasn't the lane for myself. And even though we were mixing different beats off of this free, somewhat free software, we were limited to what we could do. There was a ceiling, and we were not truly investing into the crowd. We were playing around with it and exploring, but we weren't really truly investing into the crowd. But then years later, my cousin started to take it to the next level and invested into what he was doing in his artistry. And that's the same way with life. We want this easy software, this easy production where we're calling the shots, and it's easy from that standpoint. Because it's not a lot that we have to do. We can just tweak a little bit, but we're staying in that comfortable setting. And that has been my case for years. Until recently, where I allow God to push me and steer me to those doors that he was calling me to. And that might be your case. That might be the case for yourself, where you're mixing and producing, and you're playing around, and it's like, man, this sounds good, this beat sounds good, like, okay, but God is taking you to the next level, to the next sound bar, to the more complex transitions, like the hooks, putting in the ad-libs, putting in all the stuff that the pros do, because God is making you a pro in what you're doing. And it's hard to get to that level because it's going to cost you something. It might challenge relationships. It might be you trying to explain where you're going. You don't need their necessarily their approval to where you're going, but you, like, God, I've been here. God is moving you to situations where He's like, hey, you need closure in this. You need to shake off the dust and move. Because if you don't move, you're going to be complaining where you are right now and causing damage and harm for yourself and for your own growth. It's like, man, God, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? And you're going through all these doors and wondering why none of them are leading to the destination. Yes, like, God is opening and closing doors, but I feel that we could prematurely open the wrong doors. And sometimes we can close the doors that shouldn't be closed. And God is like, hey, I'm over here. Like, it's a lot of doors. It's hidden doors. It's like all these doors that we constantly see. But some of them, they might be boarded up houses. Some of them might be in areas where we should not be going. And I'm talking from a spiritual sense. And imagine that. Like you're like, hey man, this house looks nice. Like this is where I should be, moving forward with my calling. But then God is like, man, like if you go in there, like the foundation is falling apart. I know that, but do you know that? I was trying to warn you of this, but you're moving too fast. You're jumping through the hurdles, trying to produce, trying to mix, but you're not really investing. And now you're gonna be at the same level using the same software while everybody else is excelling because they're doing the homework. They're doing the work. And a point that I recently thought of is that it's easy to entertain. It's easy to dance, but it's hard to explain. It's easy to entertain everybody in the areas where you are right now because you're there. But when God is telling you to move, it's hard to explain what God is doing. And you have to be ready for those conversations where God is leading you to new opportunities. And you cannot entertain the thoughts of, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. No, you have to exercise faith, crazy faith, and go to where God is leading you. And that was the case with Joshua and Caleb when they were talking to the children of Israel after Moses instructed Caleb, Joshua, and the 10 other spies to go and scout out the land of Jericho, the promised land where God was leading them. And Joshua and Caleb, they invested into what they were doing. After the 40 years and all that was going on, they were probably like, man, we're fed up. Like, hey, it's time for us to get it right. Like, I want this good software. I want to start producing. And the 10 kind of trumped over what Joshua and Caleb were saying. They said, hey, we got this. We could take over this land. But those other 10 was like, no, we can't. They're giants. And that's what I mean. It's hard to explain. It's like, hey, God is telling me to do this. God is leading this direction. But you got to keep in mind that not everybody's going to hear the same thing that you are hearing. And it might take extra effort and time on your part to grow, to know the words to say, to know when it's time to move, when it's time to stay, when it's time to invest, when it's time to grow. And then you'll have that music. You'll have your calling is your music. But you can't cheat it. And if you do, you're gonna have like some Fruit Loop serial type of music coming out. But it won't have the substance. And you know that music that it moves you and it has that substance in it because they put in the work. So what do you want to do with that in your life? Do you want Fruit Loop cereal? You just mixing it in, put a little cereal in there, put a little milk, or do you want the gourmet A1 steak dinner? And read and for yourself. Just read the book of Joshua. Read how he sent spies. Like he was sending spies too. He sent 2 spies to scout out Jericho. And you know who God had in place? He had Rahab, a prostitute, somebody that you know, is normally looked down upon in society. But God, He's seeing the lowly. It's like, hey, I'm gonna pick you up. I'm gonna use you for my glory. And she knew. She was like, hey, like I know of what God was doing with the Red Sea and all. Like, it was a fear of reverence. Yes, she was like, hey, I don't want to die. But it was a fear of reverence. And her whole family was saved because of her action, because of her position, because of her mixing, producing of her music in her life. And after that, those two spies, they they were able to uh, be let down from her window and be safe. And when they came back to take over Jericho, they marched around seven times, it was 7 times 7 days where they were marching around. They were quiet and everything until the seventh day, and they blew the trumpet. They blew. They had the beautiful music. And the walls came down. And you know whose house was saved? Rahab, the prostitute. They looked in their window, and I believe it was a red cord, but she hung something out of her window, and they knew, like, hey, God saved them. Like, God is saving us, but God used her to save His people, and her whole family was saved. So today, hey, skip the Fruit Loop, go to the main course, stop using Mixcraft and all this great value production, and allow God to move you into a new investment of not just your time, but of your life. And it's going to be difficult at times, but trust me, trust me. Like, when you're moving forward and you're truly investing in what God is doing, great things are going to happen. Hey, I love y'all. Again, to the newcomers, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the family. Hit the bell, subscribe, and as always, peace.